Have you ever noticed that some new managers earn respect almost instantly, while others lose their team's confidence within a few weeks? Here's the surprising part. It usually has nothing to do with experience, technical skills, or even intelligence. Most new managers fail because they believe respect comes from authority. They think speaking louder, explaining more, controlling every detail, or constantly reminding people who's in charge will make others take them seriously. But the opposite is true. The harder you try to force respect, the faster it disappears. People may obey your title for a while, but they won't trust your leadership. They'll do the bare minimum. They'll stop bringing you ideas. They'll avoid difficult conversations. And eventually, they'll only work because they have to, not because they believe in you. The best leaders understand something different. Respect isn't demanded, it's demonstrated, and the first 90 days in a leadership role often determine how your team will see you for years to come. In this video, you'll learn 5 powerful psychological principles that help new managers build credibility from day one without pretending to be someone they're not, without micromanaging, and without relying on fear. These aren't manipulation tactics. They're timeless leadership habits that make people genuinely want to follow you. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. If you've ever had a great manager or a terrible one, what was the biggest difference between them? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else become a better leader. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Be the standard you expect. One of the fastest ways to lose respect as a new manager is asking your team to live by standards that you don't follow yourself. People rarely do what leaders say. They almost always do what leaders do. Your behavior becomes the unofficial rule book for the entire team. If you're consistently late to meetings, people begin to believe punctuality isn't important. If you ignore deadlines, they'll assume deadlines are flexible. If you lose your temper whenever something goes wrong, they'll learn that pressure is an excuse for emotional reactions. Whether you realize it or not, your team is watching everything. Not because they're trying to judge you, because they're trying to figure out what kind of leader you really are. This is why leadership starts with personal discipline. If you expect professionalism, be the most professional person in the room. If you expect accountability, hold yourself accountable first. If you expect excellence, never stop raising your own standards. That doesn't mean working 20 hours a day or trying to prove you're the hardest worker on the team. It means showing that no task is beneath you and no challenge is someone else's problem. Great managers don't disappear when things get difficult. They step forward. Imagine a critical project falls behind schedule. A weak manager immediately starts asking, "Who's responsible for this?" A respected leader asks a different question. "How do we solve this together?" That simple shift changes everything. Instead of creating fear, you create confidence. Instead of protecting themselves, people focus on solving the problem. Another powerful habit is staying calm during stressful moments. Anyone can lead when everything is going according to plan. Real leadership is revealed when deadlines are missed, clients are unhappy, or unexpected problems appear. If you panic, your team panics. If you blame people publicly, they'll spend more energy avoiding mistakes than creating solutions. But when you stay composed, ask thoughtful questions, and focus on fixing the problem instead of finding someone to blame, your team begins to trust your judgment under pressure. That's when respect starts becoming permanent. People don't admire leaders because they never face problems. They admire leaders because they know those leaders won't lose control when problems arrive. Here's something worth remembering. Every single day, your team asks themselves one silent question: would I willingly follow this person if they didn't have the title? Your actions answer that question long before your words ever do. So let me ask you something. What's one leadership habit you've seen that instantly earns your respect? Or maybe one habit that immediately destroys it? Share your answer in the comments. I'd love to see what leadership behaviors stand out most to you. Number 2, talk with your team, not at them. One of the biggest mistakes new managers make is believing they need to have all the answers. They feel pressure to prove they're qualified, so they spend more time talking than listening. Every meeting becomes a presentation. Every discussion becomes a lecture. Every disagreement becomes something they have to win. But here's what psychology tells us. People are far more committed to ideas they help create than ideas they're simply told to follow. The moment your team feels like they're being talked at instead of talked with, motivation begins to disappear. That's why great leaders ask questions before giving answers. Instead of saying, "Here's what we're going to do," try asking, "What's the best way for us to achieve this goal?" Instead of saying, "This is the only solution," ask, "What options are we missing?" These questions do more than collect information. They create ownership, and ownership changes behavior. When people feel their voice matters, they stop acting like employees who are simply following instructions. They begin thinking like partners who share responsibility for the outcome. That shift is incredibly powerful. Of course, listening doesn't mean agreeing with every suggestion. A manager still has to make difficult decisions. But there's a huge difference between rejecting someone's idea after genuinely considering it and dismissing it before they finish speaking. People can accept decisions they disagree with. What they struggle to accept is feeling ignored. Another powerful communication habit is acknowledging concerns before trying to solve them. Imagine a team member says, "I'm worried this deadline isn't realistic." An inexperienced manager might immediately respond, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." But that response often makes people feel unheard. A stronger leader says something like, "I understand why you're concerned. Given the timeline, that's a reasonable point. Let's look at what obstacles are creating the biggest risk." Notice what happens. You haven't promised to change the deadline. You haven't admitted the plan is wrong. You've simply shown that you're listening. That alone lowers defensiveness and opens the door to real collaboration. There's another psychological principle at work here. People don't just remember what you said. They remember how they felt after talking to you. Did they leave the conversation feeling dismissed? Or did they leave feeling respected even if they didn't get everything they wanted? Those emotional memories shape your reputation as a leader far more than any speech ever could. The most respected managers don't dominate every conversation. They create conversations where everyone becomes smarter because they participated. Before we move on, think about your own workplace. Have you ever worked for a manager who truly listened to people? What did they do differently? Share your experience in the comments below. Your insight could help another future leader build a stronger team. Number 3, build consistent accountability. If respect is built through trust, then consistency is what protects that trust. Many new managers believe people lose respect for leaders who are too strict. In reality, people lose respect for leaders who are unpredictable. Nothing weakens your authority faster than applying one set of rules to one employee and a completely different set to someone else. The moment your team believes favoritism exists, your credibility begins to disappear. It doesn't matter if your intentions are good. What matters is what your team consistently sees. Great leaders understand that fairness isn't about treating everyone identically. It's about holding everyone to the same standards while giving each person the support they need to succeed. That means your highest performer is still accountable for missing deadlines. Your newest employee is still expected to communicate professionally. And your closest coworker doesn't receive special treatment simply because you've known them longer. Consistency creates psychological safety. People know exactly what's expected. They know what happens when expectations are met, and they know what happens when they're not. There's no guessing, no surprise, no emotional outbursts. One of the biggest mistakes inexperienced managers make is relying on empty warnings. They say things like, "This is your last chance. If this happens again, there will be consequences." But when the behavior repeats, nothing happens. Every broken promise quietly teaches the team that your words don't carry weight. Soon, deadlines become optional. Policies become suggestions. And your leadership loses influence one exception at a time. Instead, create systems that enforce accountability naturally. If project updates are due every Friday, make every Friday the standard. If missed deadlines require a follow-up meeting, hold that meeting every single time. No drama, no lectures, no public embarrassment. Just consistent action. Equally important, avoid the trap of micromanagement. Many new managers confuse control with leadership. They check every email, approve every small decision, constantly ask for progress updates. At first, this may look like strong management, but over time, it sends a damaging message. I don't trust you. High-performing employees don't want someone looking over their shoulder every hour. They want clear expectations, the right resources, and the freedom to deliver results. Instead of asking, "Have you finished it yet?" try asking, "What do you need from me to make this successful?" That single question changes the relationship. Instead of becoming the person who controls the work, you become the leader who removes obstacles. Then, once expectations are clear, let people own the outcome. When employees know they'll be trusted for their decisions and held accountable for the results, they begin developing confidence, initiative, and problem-solving skills. That's how strong teams are built, because the ultimate goal of leadership isn't creating employees who depend on you. It's developing people who can succeed even when you're not in the room. Number 4, own your mistakes. The 3A rule. Many new managers believe they need to appear flawless. They worry that admitting a mistake will make their team question their competence or authority. Ironically, the opposite is usually true. The leaders who earn the deepest respect aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who take responsibility when they do. Your team already knows you're human. They're not expecting perfection. They're watching to see what you do when things don't go as planned. Do you shift the blame? Do you make excuses? Or do you step forward and own the outcome? The most respected leaders follow a simple framework that builds trust almost immediately. Think of it as the 3A rule. The first A is acknowledge. Name the mistake clearly and directly. Don't hide behind vague language or complicated explanations. Instead of saying, "Some communication issues may have happened," say, "I underestimated how long this project would take, and that affected the entire team." Simple, clear, honest. The second A is apologize. Keep it professional and sincere. A good apology isn't dramatic, emotional, or filled with self-pity. It's brief because the goal isn't to make your team comfort you. The goal is to show that you recognize the impact of your decision. Something as simple as, "I appreciate everyone's extra effort. I'm sorry for putting the team in that position," is often enough. Then comes the most important step. The third A is action. Words rebuild very little. Actions rebuild trust. After acknowledging the mistake and apologizing, explain exactly what will change moving forward. For example, next time, we'll review the project timeline together before making commitments to the client. Or, I'm adding an extra checkpoint halfway through the project so we can catch problems earlier. Now your team sees something powerful. They don't just see a manager admitting a mistake, they see a leader learning from it. That creates confidence instead of doubt. There's another reason this matters. Your behavior becomes permission for everyone else. If your team sees you hiding mistakes, they'll hide theirs. If they see you blaming others, they'll protect themselves instead of solving problems. But if they watch you admit mistakes calmly, learn from them, and move forward without ego, they'll begin doing the same. Over time, your workplace becomes a culture where people focus on improving instead of pretending to be perfect. And that's where innovation, trust, and high performance begin. Remember this: authority may convince people to follow your instructions, but humility inspires people to believe in your leadership. The strongest leaders aren't those who never fall. They're the ones who stand back up, take responsibility, and show everyone else how to do the same. Number 5, lead with genuine care. If you remember only one lesson from this video, let it be this: people may work for a paycheck, but they give their best effort to leaders who make them feel valued. Too many managers believe leadership is only about setting goals, tracking performance, and making decisions. Those things matter, but they aren't what people remember years later. What people remember is how their manager made them feel during difficult moments. Did they feel respected? Did they feel supported? Did they feel like more than just another name on a spreadsheet? The most effective leaders understand that every employee has a life outside the office. They have families, personal goals, health challenges, financial pressures, and dreams that have nothing to do with their job title. When you genuinely care about the person behind the performance, something remarkable happens. Trust grows, communication becomes more honest, and people become willing to go the extra mile, not because they're forced to, but because they don't want to let the team down. Building that trust doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with simple, consistent actions. Learn people's names quickly. Remember important milestones. Ask how they're doing and actually listen to the answer. Celebrate progress, not just perfection. Far too many managers only speak up when something goes wrong. As a result, employees begin associating every conversation with criticism. Imagine how different your leadership feels when someone hears, "I noticed the way you handled that difficult client today. You stayed calm, solved the problem, and represented the team really well. Great job." That kind of recognition costs nothing, but its impact can last for months. People rarely forget leaders who notice the effort no one else sees. At the same time, genuine care doesn't mean lowering standard. In fact, some of the most caring conversations are also the most challenging. When an employee underperforms, don't attack their character, challenge their potential. Instead of saying, "This isn't good enough," try saying, "I know you're capable of more than this. I've seen what you can do, and I want to help you get back to that level." Notice the difference. One statement creates shame, the other creates belief. Strong leaders don't make people feel small. They make people feel capable of becoming better. That's one of the greatest psychological advantages any manager can have. Because when employees believe their leader genuinely wants them to succeed, feedback no longer feels like criticism. It feels like coaching, and coaching builds loyalty. As we wrap up this final principle, here's a question I'd love for you to answer. Think about the best manager you've ever had. What was one small thing they did that made you respect them? Leave your answer in the comments below. The best leadership lessons often come from real experiences, and someone reading your story might become the kind of leader their team never forgets. Respect isn't something you ask for. It isn't something your job title automatically gives you, and it certainly isn't something you can force. Real respect is earned through the choices you make every single day. When you become the standard you expect from others, when you talk with your team instead of talking at them, when you're consistent even when it's uncomfortable, when you're willing to own your mistakes, and when people genuinely believe you care about their success, something powerful happens. Your team stops following you because they have to. They start following you because they want to. That's the difference between managing people and truly leading them. The truth is, becoming a respected leader doesn't happen overnight. It happens one conversation, one decision, and one example at a time. You won't get everything right. No leader does. But if you're committed to improving every day, your team will notice. And over time, they'll trust you with something far more valuable than compliance. They'll trust your leadership. If you found this video helpful, share it with someone who's stepping into their first management role. It could save them months or even years of learning these lessons the hard way. And before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these 5 psychological strategies do you think has the biggest impact on earning respect as a new manager? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read as many comments as I can, and I'd love to know which leadership principle stands out most to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.